Hey, Mark, are you controlling the meeting?
I am.
I think Rob Costa's in the
I don't see him in the
attendees.
waiting.
It looks like he's on these as an attendee. He may have to get promoted.
Oh, I'll allow him to talk. Who's David Allen?
Uh, he is an applicant. We heard the last meeting.
All right, and I'm going to allow my associate George Schneider to talk, so I
Okay.
can see him there. And who's Timothy Corriston?
I believe Mr. Carston is counsel for an adjacent property owner.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to allow him to talk too. My preference when I run Zoom meetings is to allow everybody to talk that wants to talk and let them everybody. I don't use this panelist feature. People get out of line, I will mute them. And if they get really out of line, I will state the reason why I'm throwing them out of the meeting, and then I will throw them out of the meeting. I've only had to do that once for somebody who was literally drunk and drinking at a Fair Lawn meeting a few years ago. So hopefully we don't have any issues with that.
Well,
And that way we can all see each other on the
Rob
screen.
is the borough engineer.
Yeah, no, I know, Rob.
So
You gotta let me, I know I have a face for radio, but I think you gotta let me in.
You're in, I can see you there, but you
Yeah.
didn't turn your camera on, which means you're probably not appropriately dressed.
No, it shouldn't be. It should be on.
No, I think he's got to get promoted to a panelist, Mark. He's an attendee right now.
All right, well, I haven't, see if I can do that. Yes, thank you. So
There we
read,
go.
okay. Where is he? I still can't see you, Rob. There you
There
go.
it is.
Looking good. All right. Now Steve and I are the only ones wearing ties.
Okay.
All right, and it looks like we have everybody that we need to get this meeting started.
Yep, we got Rob in. Ed, Joe, how are we doing with your
I still can't see anything, and you can't see me, but I'm here.
All right,
Ed is going to send me another invite, and I'm going to try to open it up with that, and hopefully that works.
I just sent it to you, Joe.
good job, second to tap back in.
Okay, I'll try again. You can go ahead and get started.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you're working with him, we're gonna get started. Okay.
Yeah,
Lisa, you all set?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Call the meeting to order. Good evening, all. This is the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge meeting for Wednesday, July 9, 2025. Time now is 7:36 p.m. This meeting of the Municipal Land Use Board of the Borough of River Edge is being held remotely and recorded via Zoom due to Borough Council chambers unavailability and is in compliance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act and associated regulations. Notice of this remote meeting was published in the Bergen Record, posted on the front doors of Borough Hall, and posted on the borough's website. The notice included the dial-in and login information necessary for public participation and access to this meeting remotely. Copy of the agenda for the meeting was made available on the borough's website near the posting of the meeting notice and included the dial-in and login information. During the public comment period of this meeting, if you would like to make a public comment, please press the raise hand button on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone keypad to raise your hand. The board will address you by name or by the last 4 digits of your telephone number. If You may mute and unmute yourself by pressing the microphone icon on Zoom or dialing *6 on your telephone keypad. You must state your name and address clearly prior to making a public comment. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Liebman to call the roll, please.
All right, Mayor Papaleo. I think he's absent since we have D variances.
He's excused for the evening. Yep.
Chairman Caslin,
Here.
Eileen Boland,
Here.
Joseph Gatier,
I'm here, but I still can't see anything, and the other link never came through.
okay. Bruce Pfeffer,
Here.
Michael Cray,
Here.
Dario Chiningo,
Mr. Canigo is excused for this evening.
Councilman Glass,
He's also excused.
Ryan Gibbons,
Here.
George Salva,
Here.
Zoning Officer Depkin,
Here.
Mr. Tom Behrens, planner.
Good
is
evening.
here.
Sorry, found the
I
mute
see
button.
you. And I see Rob Costa and he's on mute. So we have a quorum and we can proceed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Liebman. As an initial procedural matter, we're going to hold to a curfew this evening of 10 p.m. With that, we're going to move into our agenda. The first item for the approval of minutes, the minutes are not available for our June 25th meeting, nor do we have memorializations for applicants David Allen, 124 Jefferson Avenue, or Daniel and Danielle Shapiro Rappaport, 726 Center Avenue. Those memorializations will be available at a later meeting. So if you are here for either of those memorializations, you're welcome to stay, but your memorializations will take place at a later meeting. That being the case, we're going to move on quickly into our new business. The application is for IAAT Services LLC, 41 Grand Avenue, Block 1405, Lot 4, seeking proposals for installation of a billboard. This application was deemed complete at a prior meeting on May the 28th. So with that, I will turn it over to the applicant's counsel, Mr. Sinisi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board and board staff, as well as distinguished counsel who have or are appearing in connection with our client's application. First and foremost, I just would like to say it's been a few years since I've been before this board, but I can also say, as I'm sure some of my attorney colleagues on this matter will also say, it's refreshing that you have a staff and professional consultants who are actually able to generate review letters as well as provide instructions and guidance in a timely manner. Some of us are used to going to applications and public hearings and being handed for the first time a significant review letter. And I'd like to comment, Mr. Vogel and board counsel for their prompt release and dissemination of information necessary for this application. I thank you for that. Secondly, I would like you to know that I think, and after 53 years again of doing this, I hope I don't have to eat my words, but I hope we're in for an earlier evening because one of my key witnesses will not be available tonight, and that would be Mr. Hal Simoff of Simoff Engineering. He is our traffic engineer, and as you know from the submissions before this board, has submitted a significant report in support of this application. Fortunately, he is not only out of state, but out of this country. So I don't have the benefit of Hal, and as a consequence, I typically would never call our planner before his testimony was in the record. So I want that clear, and I also want objectors counsel to know that because this should not be application by surprise. Thirdly, we do want to point out that we will be and hopefully can present our engineer tonight, our site plan engineer, who will also be laying the foundation for the relief our client is seeking, which has been appropriately indicated as use and height variances, as well as some bulk variances that are dimensional in nature, which are part of the elements that have to be proven by the applicant to sustain his burden. I would like at this point, because I think we can move along and call my first witness shortly, by just asking for all counsel here, whether they're here for or in opposition, to formally state their representation on the record, because I didn't know Mr. Corriston, or at least I didn't have knowledge that that would actually occur, that he would be appearing and representing someone. So I just want to get everybody's representation on the record.
I agree. That's a good idea. Let's start with Mr. Sarlo, since we have correspondence from him first.
Thank you, Counselor. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Sinisi, good evening, colleague counsel. Charles Sarlo on behalf of the opposition, that being Dark Star Development LLC, who is a property owner at 335 Johnson Avenue, which is block 1405, lot 3, which is the property adjacent to the subject property, which is the subject of this application this evening. Also tangentially representing Let It Grow, who is Let It Grow, the owner of Let It Grow, and Dark Star Development are his common owners, and Let It Grow is the proposed tenant for one of the floors at the proposed office building at 335 Johnson Avenue.
Mr. Pekar?
Robert Pekar, go as Bob Pekar. I am with Pekar and Abramson. We are the second floor at 70 Grand Avenue, the 70,000 square foot building across the street from the applicant. And I'm here on behalf of them, as well as I am a principal in Grand Four Associates, which is the owner of our building.
It's Grand Four Associates?
Yes, sir.
Grand, numeral 4 or the word 4?
FOUR.
That's an LLC, I presume?
Yes, sir.
And that's the owner of 70 Grand Avenue?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Corriston, are you on the call?
Yes. Hi, how
Can
are
you turn on
you?
your, can you turn on your camera, please?
I could if I could find it. I apologize, but I can't find it on here. It's not indicated. I think you have to, I don't know if someone has.
Oh,
to
wait, I may have to make you a panelist. Hold on. All right, try it now.
Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Timothy Corriston from the law firm of Connell Foley. We represent the estate of E. Tamborelli, Trust B, and Route 4 Main Street LLC. I did send an email to Ed today, got bounced, and I just resent it. It's the New Bridge Landing Shopping Center.
All right, can you just give me the name of the client again, but slow enough that I can type it?
Sure. Estate of E. Period Tamborelli, TAMBURELLI dash Trust B as in boy, and Route 4 with the number 4 Main Street LLC.
Right, Ed, when you get the email from Mr. Corriston, please forward it along to me.
Yes, I will. Can you just make sure you sent it to me? Because I didn't receive it yet.
Yeah, it got bounced back because I had there were quotes, but I sent it to EALTER@BOR.river-edge.
No, wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's EALTER@riveredgenj.org.
Okay. I'll send you it to the correct address. Thank you.
Thank you.
Timothy,
Okay.
was I placed in copy, just out of curiosity?
You are not, it's just an email, but I'll send it to you when I get a chance, okay?
Thank you. I just wanted for our file and our client's knowledge of who is interested in his application.
He's been corresponding with my client and knows that I'm representing them. So, but
Good.
I'll also send a formal letter tomorrow to everyone. All right?
Okay.
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get started. Mr. Sinisi, and if you want to make an opening statement
Yeah,
or
next-
call this witness.
Well, very brief, because I think that this record will begin to define and distinguish itself as we move along. But I just wanted to make note of the fact that I actually called Mr. Sarlo and messaged Mr. Picard to let them know that it was a virtual hearing tonight, so that there would be no confusion. And while I spoke to Mr. Sarlo, I did get confirmation from Mr. Picard that they were aware and were joining us. I would have done the same for Timothy if I had that opportunity, and not to say that he didn't attempt to let us know of his appearance, but I would have given him the same courtesy. But I'm glad to see he's found his way to this call. That said, Mr. Costa, and I'm starting with the board engineer, primarily because I think there is a description in his latest review letter of July 3rd, 2025, that I think puts as a introduction what this application is about. He indicates on the first page, by way of our opening, that the applicant proposes to construct 60-foot tall double-face static billboard, and the word is static billboard, at the southwest corner of the property. Property is bounded by Route 4, Marginal Road to the west, Grand Avenue to the south, and Johnson Avenue to the east, as well as vacant land to the north. And the existing improvements, site improvements on this property includes a 2-story brick office building, macadam parking lot, concrete curbing, retaining walls, site lining, and landscape. But you'll hear more about the specifics of the property from our first witness. And the next thing I'm going to do, because I think it makes abundantly good sense, is we have, and we'll leave it open too for Mr. Corriston to submit whatever he's submitting. But I'd like to mark as A1 my letter to Mr. Liebman, which Mr. Liebman requested regarding the issue associated with the banning provision of the billboard signage ordinance. So I would ask that my letter dated May 21st, 2025, be part of this record as A1.
That's fine.
I would then ask that your response that appeared on July 7th, 2025, likewise be marked into the record, but I presume you'd want that to be B1 as the board's exhibit.
I don't think it matters what we mark it as long as the record is clear, but we can call it B1. That's fine.
Or A2, either one.
Yeah, let's
And
call
then
it, let's call it B1. And do we want to mark Mr. Sarlo's letter?
I
into the
do.
record?
That's it. Exactly. Wanted to get to Mr. Sarlo's letter, which you respond to in your correspondence. We'll mark Mr. Sarlo's letter as O1.
What's the date of Mr. Sarlo's letter? I don't have it right in front of me.
Sarlo, can you help us out with your letter date?
Sure. June
If not, I
7th,
can.
June 7th, 2025.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you. And let's leave a space marker if we can, just to keep a tidy record for whatever Mr. Corriston will be submitting tomorrow. And we can all talk at a appropriate time about the specific contents of those letters. We'll be getting to them, I'm sure, during the course of testimony. But I thought it might make for a clean record if we had those all up front, because those do implicate legal issues, and how those legal issues may likewise implicate the application is going to be discussed. So I did promise an earlier night, subject to cross-examination of my witness, I'd like to call at this time and have sworn Mr. William Voigt, our project engineer.
There's Mr. Voigt. Mr. Voigt, can you please raise your right hand to be sworn? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name for the record, and give us your business address.
Sure. Good evening. William R. Vogt Jr. From L2A Land Design LLC. We are the civil engineer for the project, and we are located at 66 Grand Avenue, second floor, Englewood, New Jersey, 07631.
Great, thank you. Go right ahead, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Voigt, would you please state your chosen profession?
Sure. I am a professional engineer in the state of New Jersey, and I was hired to prepare the site plans that were submitted as part of this application for the applicant.
How long have you practiced engineering?
Coming up on 25 years.
And what is your educational background, sir?
I have a bachelor's in science and civil engineering from SUNY Buffalo, New York, and my license is in good standing. I've also appeared before this board on other occasions.
And were your qualifications as a civil engineer accepted by the board on those occasions?
Yes, it was.
How long have you been licensed in the state of New Jersey?
Almost 20 years.
And is your license tonight in good standing as you appear before this board and give testimony on behalf of this applicant?
Yes, it is.
Do I also understand you're a licensed professional land surveyor?
No, I'm not a professional landscape surveyor. We had a survey contracted as part of the application by Lakeland Surveying, and that was submitted as part of the application.
Thank you. Now, have you appeared before land use boards in New Jersey and qualified to serve as an engineer?
Yes, I have.
And how long have you been associated with your firm? And what is your relationship to that firm?
Sure. I'm one of the owners and principals of L2A Land Design. We were formed in 2006, and I've testified throughout the state of New Jersey.
Have your qualifications, incidentally, ever been rejected?
No, they have not.
What are some of the comparable kinds of engineering projects you and the firm have worked on? And I use the word comparable, meaning to this application.
Sure. I represent not only this applicant for this type of billboard applications, but I do represent multiple other nationwide outdoor advertising applicants throughout the state. I've probably done in the realm of 50 applications as far as billboards throughout the state of New Jersey.
And those would include static billboards as well as digital billboards?
Yes, both static and digital.
Mr. Liebman, I'm going to present Mr. Vogt's credentials as being qualified to testify as a civil engineer and ask that you accept his qualification.
All right. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Voigt regarding his qualifications? All right. Mr. Chairman, is it your practice that the board makes the determination of the witness's qualifications, or do you defer that to your attorney?
Unless there's objection either from the board or from council, we'll proceed.
Okay.
Great,
So-
thank you.
to just so the record is clear, the board accepts Mr. Voigt's qualifications as a professional engineer.
Okay. Well, would you please tell the board, and for the benefit of the accuracy of this record, what the scope of your engagement is with respect to this project? What were you asked to do?
Sure. We were contracted by the applicant to prepare a survey of the subject property and to prepare the site plans that were submitted as part of the application to the land use board before you this evening.
And in undertaking your engagement, am I correct that you physically inspected the property to perform it
Yes, I have.
on more than one occasion?
I think I was out there twice.
Now, I'm going to show you, well, not very easily, but you are aware that a survey was prepared by William C. Butchhock, a licensed land surveyor consisting of one sheet and dated January 9, 2025, which was submitted with the application. Did this survey assist your firm with preparing your site plans?
Yes, that is the base mapping that we use to create the site plans.
Mr. Liebman, I'd like to move that as the next exhibit.
Give me 1 second, Mr. Sinisi. Just getting some noise interference over here. The survey is going to be marked as what, A2?
That would be A2.
All right. Did you want me to bring it up on the screen?
No, not unless at some point in time somebody would like to examine it. We're good with it. It was submitted with the application.
Okay.
Mr. Vogt, did you know whether the applicant, strike that. Are you aware that the applicant has received from the state of New Jersey Department of Transportation an outdoor advertising permit?
Yes, I have, and I believe it was submitted as part of the application, and I believe it was accepted in Mr. Costa's latest review letter.
And thank you for that. I'm going to ask you, sir, as someone who's been to the rodeo and made these applications before, what is your understanding of the relationship of a applicant on the local level seeking billboard approval that this statewide or state outdoor advertising permit is? What's its relevance?
Sure. The applicant or the billboard purveyor has to apply for the location to the DOT. That's the New Jersey Department of Transportation. And they have to, the DOT has to vet out the location. It has to be in a commercial or industrial zoned area along a major highway within New Jersey, and has to meet the criteria in order for them to issue a DOT permit for the outdoor sign, whether it's a digital or static sign. And then once they get that approval from the DOT, then they have to go and apply to the local municipality and then any other outside agency approvals that are related to the permitting for the sign.
So while we will move this permit into the record as the applicant's next exhibit, I'm going to ask you, sir, you agree, do you not, that it does not relieve the applicant of its burden from obtaining local approvals where they exist? Is that correct?
That's correct.
We mark even though when in the applications, I like to mark it on a chronological.
Yeah, I've marked that as a A3 in my notes. It's in the record. The DOT letter dated December 26, 2024, DOT permit number 77801.
Now-
Just one thing, if I can. If it's the same permit I have in my package, it looks like the permit expired on May of 15th of 25.
Yep.
I'm going to show, I believe we submitted, have in our possession a status that indicates it's good through May of 2026. And we will offer that document actually just a printout.
So what the DOT does is they basically, they don't reissue that formal permit to the billboard purveyor. They send an updated list of all of the permit numbers and their renewals. So
And
that,
IOT Services permit number is 700-462. Is that correct?
correct.
And on page 2 of that list of active permits on 2025, Bergen River Edge Borough reflects the one that is before the board tonight, 30 feet west of Grand Avenue. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that mark is, Mr. Friedman, I should say, I apologize, accompanied the submission that we provided to you electronically.
Oh, that was in the email that you sent me?
Yes, that was next to the outdoor permit. Well, I should say my administrators, but it's here and it's attached to my permit.
Alright, so,
It's been it's in existence and it's good through May of 2026 as I read the DOT active status report.
okay, all right.
And we'll make it available to all if they don't have it.
Yeah, I don't see that attached to the PDF, Mr. Sinisi. Let me see if it's attached to one of the other items.
It has a lot of blackouts as to all other statewide permits, but our client's permit, we did not black out because we did not want to.
Yeah, I only just have the one page,
All right, well,
permit,
we'll make-
but we're not gonna finish this tonight. You can send that over later. You
And I'll
seem to have
copy-
it. I'm sure you're not lying about it, so let's move on.
Well, that's what I have from the state, so we'll give it to not only you and Mr. Vogel, but counsel of record
Okay, thank you.
for appearing on this app. So, based on your testimony and the materials you've examined, which do I include, or should I include the fact that you examined the zoning and signage ordinances for the Borough of River Edge to prepare your undertaking?
Yes, we did.
So I'm going to show you now a site plan or a set of plans entitled Site Plan, consisting of 3 sheets and revised on April 21, 20. Did you prepare these plans?
I did. Do you want me to share my screen and show
Yes.
the plans?
I would.
Sure.
And we're going to mark that next mark as,
I think that'll be A4, but let me just double
that
check.
would be, yeah, that would definitely be a,
Hold on, yeah. A4, so, okay. Okay,
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
yes.
Okay, great. Yes, Steve, these are
Okay.
these are the site plans that were submitted as part of the application. It's a 3-page set. Revision 1 dated 4/21/2025.
okay. Now, would you be so kind as to narrate what is depicted on each sheet of these plans.
Sure. So the first page is the cover sheet. The second page is the site plan C-02. And the third page is the sign elevation plan with the photometrics depicted elevation view of the sign.
Okay, now describe the sign itself.
Sure. So the property is located at 41 Grand Avenue. It's block 1405, lot 4. It's found on tax map 14, and it's located in the C2 commercial zone. What I'd like to do is, can I just, this was exhibit A4, correct? The site plans?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to, I have an aerial image prepared, and we can label that A5.
Well, that's
That's fine.
Okay.
I will just ask that either immediately now or immediately after the meeting's over, if you could email this to Mr. Alter and myself and send it to Mr. Sinisi so he can share it with the other council, just so that we all have a copy of this.
Yeah, before we get to this exhibit, I just want to give a little bit of an explanation. It was only as a result of certain comments made in the review correspondence that we recently received, and with the knowledge, obviously, that there are interests being expressed about this application from adjacent property owners, that we thought that we would create an exhibit for tonight, which would be an aerial photo, and it's 2 sheets. And I'll let Mr. Vogt tell us what they represent. But I wanted to be sure. Are you certainly finished with your testimony on the site plan? I don't think you did.
No, I'm not. I wanted to just get the board oriented of where the site is located. That's all.
Please do.
Okay. Okay, so just back to this aerial photograph. This is a Google Earth image of the subject property and the surrounding properties. The image is usually within the last 2 to 4 years of current conditions. What I did is I outlined the property in red. It's a L-shaped property. It has it's a corner lot. It has frontage along 4 roadways. To the top of the page is north, to the bottom is south, to the left is west, and to the right is east. To the bottom of the page, to the south, we're bordered by Grand Avenue. That's a municipal roadway. To the right or to the east, we're bordered by Johnson Avenue, also a municipal roadway.
Could you use your cursor? And if you're using it, forgive me, that's retinal macular degeneration at work, but I don't see the cursor moving.
Sure. Let me zoom in here. So to the east is Johnson Avenue.
Thank you.
To the west is Route 4 and the off-ramp of Route 4 onto Grand Avenue. And then directly to the north, we are abutted by other commercial properties. And then in the foreground, it would be Main Street, farther to the north. So the subject site is approximately 0.43 acres. Access to the site is currently through a single driveway off of Johnson Avenue. There is at-grade parking on the site. Some of it which is covered by the building that's existing on the site. Parking is provided both underneath the building and outside of the building in the asphalt lot. And our proposed billboard is being located in the southwest corner, directly facing New Jersey State Highway Route 4. And with that, I will go back to the site plans to C-02, the site plan, to show the board where the sign is being located. So I'm just going to zoom in here. So again,
And while you're zooming in, please give the explanation or describe the billboard itself when you locate it.
sure. So again, the property, the L-shaped property is designated by this dark black double dash line that represents the property boundary. The building itself is, I'm going to just highlight it for the board. The building itself, I just highlighted in yellow. And the access to the site is directly on the right-hand side or to the east off of Johnson Avenue. The proposed billboard, again, is located on the southwest corner of the property, fronting along New Jersey State Highway Route 4. It's a V-shaped, double-sided, static billboard. It measures 14 feet in height. The sign face measures 14 feet in height by 48 feet in width. And the current height for the sign is proposed at 60 feet. You can see that because the sign is a static sign, meaning that it's a vinyl panel that gets installed on each face, there are 4 exterior lights that illuminate both faces of the sign. So I have 4 uplights that are angled to the face of the sign on both sides to illuminate the message in the evening hours. Those lights are off during the day. They only turn on in the evening hours by use of programming and a photocell. The proposed sign is located 10.78 feet to the closest vertical sign face to the front yard of Route 4. Along the side yard, which would be to the left of the page, my setback is 10 feet. And then to the rear, which would be the property line opposite the back of the billboard, which would be adjacent to neighboring lot 4, our setback is 17.86 feet. And then our distance to the other front yard along Johnson Avenue, which would be to the right or to the east, is 139.57 feet. Before I get into the actual bulk table, I'd like to switch just to the last page of the site plans, the C-03. And this gives you an idea of the orientation of the proposed sign. It's what I call as a flag shaped sign, where it's supported by a monopole, 4-foot diameter monopole that is augured into the ground, and that is located at the nose of the sign, which is closest to Route 4. And then the message of the sign then is cantilevered back into the property to the west and slightly overhangs the existing 2-story commercial building that's on the property. So you can, what I did is I transposed some of those dimensions to the or offsets to the property lines that I just stated before, our front yard, side yard, rear yard. I also depicted the 60-foot height of the sign, which is measured from the ground level at the base of the foundation to the very top of the sign, which is 60 feet. And then we will
And-
have,
And that height exceeds the maximum height limitation.
it does.
That's not-
It does. The
And
maximum height
therefore,
is
and
30.
therefore requires a D6 variance, does it not?
It does. It does. And I will go back over the other variances required. The cantilevered portion of the sign has a clearance of 9 feet above the top of the existing building. We do have a 3-foot wide apron at the bottom. I'm just going to highlight it for you at the bottom of the sign. That's where the personnel can access the catwalk for changing the copy on the static sign. That's also where the lighting is housed. And it also is the area where the billboard owner has their sign number and their name, which are both required per their DOT permit. So that information will go in this yellow area at the very bottom.
Could I ask you at this point, since working fluidly between the aerial photo exhibit and your site plan, go to the second page of the aerial photo exhibit?
Sorry, Steve, what were you looking for?
Pull up the second page or second sheet, the aerial photo exhibit you prepared.
Okay.
And as I'm indicating, you're moving fluidly between the site plan, location of the billboard, and the aerial view of the site and where the billboard would be. What is depicted on sheet 2 of the aerial photo exhibit you prepared?
Steve, I'm sorry, you lost me a little there.
The aerial photo exhibit.
The
You
one I'm
prepared.
showing right now?
Yeah. How many sheets is that?
It's just one sheet.
Did you do or prepare a second sheet that dealt with the location of the properties that we have become aware are interested in this application and their distance from the billboard?
I did.
Would you be able to, at this stage, and I'm not going to ask you to produce a document if you don't have it, but did you study that issue?
I do. I did, and I do have that. I can flip to that aerial
Yes.
image.
I think that would be helpful to counsel for the adjacent property owners to know where and how far from the proposed billboard their clients' properties are.
All right,
Sure.
can we just slow down a second? So this aerial map is a little bit different than the
Yes.
one. So let's mark this one into the record separately. Let me just get my notes up.
Okay.
Is that A6?
I think this is A6.
Okay.
So let's
I actually had them both at one time collectively on my informal list, but we can do it that way.
yeah, let's call this one A6 and let's refer to this as the colorized aerial.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is the same aerial image as A5. All I did was I added the 3 properties that are in opposition of the project. And I'll just start from the top of the page in no particular order, just from top to bottom. In the light blue at the very north of the page, that is lot 3.01, block 1404, and that is located at 1001-1091 Main Street, and the ownership is Route 4 Main Street LLC, and the site is approximately 3.86 acres. That particular property is approximately 200 feet property line to property line from the subject parcel. Moving on to the next location shown in yellow, which is directly behind or to the north of our site, is 335 Johnson Avenue. That's lot 3, block 1405. The owner is Dark Star Development LLC, and that property is approximately 0.52 acres. That property and the subject property share common property lines, so I would put them at a 0 setback from one another. And then lastly, to the bottom of the page or to the south in the magenta color, that is lot 1, block 1410. That's 70 Grand Avenue. The ownership is Grand 4 Associates, and that property is approximately 1.6 acres. And then the closest property line to property line is approximately 100 feet. They're directly opposite one another to the south or to the north.
Thank you.
Sure.
You had alluded to the fact that after you finished your testimony on the aerial photo exhibits, we're calling them exhibits because there's actually two, you're going to return to the zoning schedule on the site. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. So I'm going to flip back to A4, the site plan. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zoom in to our bulk table, just so everyone can see that. So we listed all of the bulk regulations for the site, and I specifically highlighted the ones that are specific to the billboard. They're in the bold writing. So for the maximum building height for this C2 zone, the maximum height is 35 feet. Our proposed billboard is at 60 feet, so requiring a variance. Our front yard setback, as it relates to the billboard, a minimum of 30 feet is required. We're requesting 10.78 feet, which would also be a variance. The minimum side yard setback would be 15 feet required. We're asking for 10 feet. The combined side yard setback, we only have one side that's related to the billboard. So again, we are at the 10-foot proposed, where 35 feet is the requirement. And then the last is the minimum rear yard setback would be 20 feet, and the proposed billboard is at 17.86 feet. Again, requiring a variance.
And your table pretty much corresponds with the table that Mr. Costa's office identified as what was required. That's fair to say?
Yes, that is fair to say.
I know we have an expert who we will be calling to supplement this record on certain traffic issues and studies and reports. But can you tell us from your vantage point as the site plan engineer, why 60 feet as opposed to 35?
Sure. The what the applicant does is they go out to the site and they prepare a photo exhibit of what the proposed sign would look like. They hang a rod in the air to simulate the height of the billboard, and then they have a graphic artist render the billboard on the property. and then they take photographs from Route 4, and they determine what the optimal height would be for the motorists traveling east and west along Route 4. So for this particular location, because of the high commercial and density along Route 4 in the east-west directions, and the building heights that are within the corridor of this commercial area, the 60 feet was the optimal height for the billboard to be viewed in both the east and west directions. The height of the sign also does not impede on any other, it doesn't block out any other signage or lighting that is along the corridor. It doesn't block any buildings from viewpoints along the corridor of Route 4. That's basically what goes through for the site location and determining the height for this application.
Thank you. You, along with other members of our client's project team, have been reviewing various review letters from the board engineer and the board planner commenting on this application. Have you not?
We have.
Yes. And with respect to the board engineer's revised review correspondence of July 3rd, 2025, relating to signage at the bottom of page 2 of his report, he asks, 2 signs are proposed on the billboard, each with 672 square feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
He likewise asks whether 2 signs are proposed on the billboard with a total area of 1,344 square feet. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you please confirm, based on your knowledge of the site and your work product, whether there are 2 existing signs and 2 proposed for a total of 4 signs at this location?
There are 2 building mounted signs on the existing building. And what I'll do is I'm just gonna highlight the 2 locations. Let me just change the color of that for you so you can see that.
Please don't call it fuchsia. You've already fooled me with magenta.
So there's one sign facing sign 1. I have it indicated on the site plan. That is the building mounted sign that faces Grand Avenue. And then there is a second sign that's along the western face of the existing building facing Route 4 to the west. So those are the 2 existing building mounted signs.
On page 4, item number 2, the question is asked whether there are any covenants or deed restrictions on this property. You recall that question?
Yes, I do.
And you recall that with the applicant's submissions, a slope easement was identified, but that I believe it was the conclusion that it would have no effect on this particular development application. Am I correct?
That's correct. And just I zoomed in on the site plan. That slope easement to the DOT is outlined with the orange hatched area that's along the frontage of both Grand Avenue and Route 4.
Thank
And
you.
you can see we kept the foundation outside of the easement.
Now, one of the issues that the engineer appropriately raises in item 9 of his report is whether there are any potential lighting impacts to adjacent properties in the form of light spillage or light projection beyond the sign. And if so, what is your remedy for that?
Sure. So the static sign is has exterior lighting versus a multi-message or a digital billboard would have internal lighting through, you know, LED panels with a series of diodes. So this is not the case for the static board. It has exterior lighting. The lights are what I'm showing you is the page C3 of the elevation. The 4 lights are indicated in blue, and they're attached to the catwalk at the very bottom of the apron, and they are angled in such a way to illuminate the face only of the billboard. So what I'll do is I'm just going to slide over I'll just give you a picture of what the lights look like. So you can see they have what I would call a house side shield on the outside of the light, and then the LED fixture is directing light to the face of the sign. And the intent is to only illuminate the face of the sign so that the message can be read. What the lighting manufacturer also provided were illumination levels on the face of the billboard in a measure of unit called foot candles.
Right.
So you can see you've probably had applications where you have exterior lighting as part of a parking lot, and the values are listed as foot candles. This is the same. They're just more intense because of the distance, proximity of the 4 lights to the face of the billboard. So you can see they have the photometrics show that the sign is well lit. What it does is the light is directed only to the face of the board. So there's no direct light that leaves the face of the board. But what you will have is what I call a glow along the edge of the sign. So you will see that there is a light source on the face of the sign, but there is no direct spillage of the light beyond the face of the sign. The lighting is blocked by the sign face panel. So if this was the only object that had a luminance in the sky, you would tend to see a slight glow around the edge of the board. But being on a commercial corridor where you have a Route 4 corridor is fully lit with Cobra headlights and overhead floodlights that range at distances or heights off the ground of 25 to 40 feet. The lighting for the billboard, any ambient light far exceeds any of the lighting on the board that would be the spillage from the sign.
In your professional opinion, having engineered, use the phrase, static billboards, do you consider lighting that would be associated with this billboard to create any potential adverse impact to adjacent properties?
No, I do not.
Now, Mr. Costa also asked in his review correspondence dated item 11, whether a digital billboard was considered for this application. You recall that comment?
I do.
You have a response, or would you not be aware of what the applicant's initial intentions or initial thoughts were about a billboard at this location?
No, sure, I can answer that for you. As part of the DOT application process, they look at other either constructed billboards or billboard permits that are on the same side of the roadway. The minimum spacing distance from a digital billboard to another digital billboard on the same side of the roadway is 3,000 feet. The minimum distance from a digital billboard to a static billboard on the same side of the street is 300 feet. So if I go back to the aerial image, which was, I believe that's A5. Actually, yes, A5. There is in the neighboring city of Hackensack to the east along Route 4 or to the bottom of the page, there is a double static V-shaped billboard that's approximately 1,000 feet from our current location. So the DOT will only permit a static billboard in this location. So
What stops the DOT from changing the regulations next year or 5 years from now?
To my knowledge, they will not change this separation distance.
Do you know how long that distance has been the rule? And I'm just asking because I don't know.
I don't know when it was implemented, but it has not changed in the 10 plus years that I've been testifying before boards about billboards.
All right. And is that like in the New Jersey Administrative Code, or is that like?
Yes,
where's that
yes,
come from?
yes, it is. And I can find the section for you of the code and provide that to you.
All right.
But yes, there's certain criteria that the DOT goes through for every application. And basically one of the first ones is what is their proximity on the same side of the roadway to another either billboard permit or a constructed billboard. So in this case, the existing digitals that are to the east in Hackensack are within 3,000 feet. So unless that permit is vacated and those signs are taken down, this location will not be allowed to be converted to a digital billboard. It's only permitted for static.
Thank you.
Well,
Along the same vein, the question Mr. Costa then asks is whether it is the applicant's future intention to convert this static billboard to digital. Are you aware of any such thoughts or intentions to convert the static to a digital?
no, there's no intention to convert this sign to a digital.
Turning your attention now as the site plan engineer to item 12 in Mr. Costa's report involving landscaping. Is any landscaping proposed at the base of the billboard?
There's no landscaping proposed. I'm just going to flip back to the sign elevation. There's no existing vegetation within that landscaped island. We didn't propose any within that area. But again, open to suggestions from the board if if they had some suggestions about landscaping. We typically leave that up to discussion with the board and their professionals.
Thank you. Now, although we're getting into the realm of redundancy, We have a board planners review correspondence of May 22nd. And he asks in item 3 to confirm that the billboard that is proposed is static as opposed to digital. It is it not?
It is.
And the question is also asked, what is the rationale for the proposed size and height of them? And I know Mr. Simoff will certainly be called upon to testify as part of that question, but you as the civil site engineer and experienced in designing these, tell us, in your opinion, why the proposed size and height of this billboard is as reflected on this.
Yes, it is. As part of the DOT permit, they will stipulate the size of the sign that's permitted. Typically, it's larger than what we present to on the application. So the size of the message is restricted by the DOT permit. But again, we are at least the same size, if not smaller, than what's permitted for this area at 14 by 48. And I did give testimony earlier about the height that we're proposing at 60 feet.
Item number 4 in the planner's review letter asks whether the lighting fixture illumination, we're back to illumination now, can be reduced or color temperatures adjusted. Can you answer that? Either one or the other, or both?
Sure. The the 4 proposed exterior lights, they do not dim. I'm not aware of any exterior lights that dim on any of the static billboard applications that I've presented. The LED color is 5,000 Kelvin, so it's more of a white light representing what daylight. If you ever purchased a a light bulb, LED bulb, it would be more of the daylight temperature. So it doesn't impact the color or message of the sign. It's just a clear light.
And I can't certify to this, but I ask the question, if this community had a look back provision, should this application be approved, let's say 6 months, like several adjacent municipalities have, at the lighting to see if, as approved, the lighting is either working appropriately or creating some sort of a disturbance. Is it your understanding that the applicant is prepared to accept as a condition a look back provision if this application were approved, to see what, if any, adjustments could be made should there be an issue with the lighting that's approved?
Yes, I think that's acceptable. And again, if there was any issue with the lighting, let's say, a light was out or it was flickering, the DOT does monitor all of these, all of the signs that are constructed and have permits. And that's why the name of the owner and the board and the sign number are on the apron of the sign, so that they can contact the owner if they don't know that the light is out, or to issue a violation if there's no remedy by the owner.
Thank you. You are not and haven't been qualified as a planner, and I'm not going to ask you this question as a planner, but as an experienced civil engineer. You have an opinion as to whether or not the site plan you've designed would pose any substantial adverse impacts at the property, or to the surrounding properties, or to the public good if this board were to grant this application?
As in my capacity as a civil engineer, based on, the commercial makeup of the Route 4 corridor and the surrounding commercial zones that are adjacent along the frontages of Route 4. I don't think this sign is out of place. And it is similar to other signs that are currently existing. Like I mentioned, just to the east, in Hackensack, you have two LED billboards that are on both the east and west side. You have multiple DOT highway signs that are illuminated in the same fashion as the proposed static sign along the Route 4 corridor. And you have multiple commercial businesses with either building mounted or pylon signage that has a similar identification signage as the proposed sign. So I don't believe it's out of the ordinary, and I think this is exactly where this type of signage belongs.
With the exception of the requested use variance, given the billboard ban that is the current ordinance, is it likewise your opinion that the magnitude or percentage, if you will, of the deviations from the bulk requirements in the zoning code would likewise, if granted, not cause any adverse or substantial impacts to the surrounding property?
Yes, I would agree with that. There are no regulations currently in the River Edge ordinance particular to billboards.
But I'm now also talking similarly about the bulk regulation, side yards, the setbacks, the coverage, etc. Is it similarly your opinion, having designed these and, as you said, familiar with the ordinances that apply, that the magnitude, quote unquote, of the deviation from the requirements or standards would, if granted, would not have a substantial adverse impact on the property or surrounding adjacent properties? Is that your opinion?
That is my opinion, and in the magnitude of a civil engineer. Yes.
I have no further questions at this time, subject to recall after cross-examination.
Okay, who wants to go first? Mr. Sarlo? Maybe since you sent the first letter in, we'll call you first.
Thank you, Counselor. Does the board members want to go first before the opposition counsel?
Certainly do that. Mr. Caslin, whatever your preference is. Obviously, I'm unfamiliar with the board's practices.
I'm fine with the objectors council asking questions first. So, Mr. Sarlo, the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Counselor. Okay, Mr. Voigt, good evening.
Good evening. You can call me Bill.
Okay,
It's fine. All right. Good to see you again.
same here. Okay, so I have a few questions based on your testimony and your exhibits. So you testified with regard to the DOT permit. And you stated that they look at certain criteria. I believe that was your testimony. The criteria that at least you mentioned, there may be others, is highway location and has to be in a commercial or industrial area. Are those the only criteria that is looked at?
There are other criteria that are in there. If I can just summarize. I don't have all the criteria in front of me, but they do look at proximity to on and off ramps, to other crossings on the highway corridor, and the like.
Okay, but the DOT does not look at the adverse impact to the neighborhood or adjacent properties?
They are concerned with the commercial right of way of their DOT right of way. That's correct. That's why you have to the applicant has to apply to the municipality and any other outside agencies that have jurisdiction over the application. So they're looking at it purely from a DOT corridor.
So, okay, so the DOT permit really means nothing as it relates to the impact to the adjacent properties or the zone plan. And I think you had testified to that earlier. It's really the, like you just said, it's the focus of the state highway corridor. So looking one way, not looking the other way. Is that a fair statement?
It is a fair statement, but I must state that the location of the sign has to be within a commercial zone within the municipality. And, you know, they do drive the highway. They look at the safety of it, the location of it. It is very it has a lot of review to it before you can be issued a DOT permit. So just to say that they're focused within the corridor of the highway is, I would say, an understatement. They do look at all of the off and on ramps to the municipal roadways and surrounding properties. So it does go a little bit beyond the DOT right of way. But yes, in general, that's why we have to present the application to the municipality.
Okay. So the on and off ramps, is the roadway between Route 4 and the subject property, is that an on and or off ramp, or is that a wraparound of Grand Avenue? The only reason I'm asking is when you showed the aerial image from Google Earth, it had Grand Avenue, I guess, to the south, was it? Yeah, Grand Avenue to the south and Grand Avenue to the west, basically between the highway. And that's just up from Google Earth. I'm not sure if it's mislabeled, but I'm looking for your clarification. Yes.
Sure, I'm just pulling back up that aerial for you. Yes, that's the off ramp of Grand Avenue. That is still within the DOT corridor.
Okay, so is that, but is it Route 4 or is it labeled as Grand? Is it Grand Avenue or is it Route 4?
The aerial image has it as Grand Avenue, but that is the off ramp of Route 4 to Grand Avenue.
Okay. So I'm a little confused when you went through the zoning table in terms of what you were considering as front yard and side yard and rear yard.
Sure.
So what did you consider to be the front yard?
Sure. The front yard, well, there's actually 3 front yards to the property. So the front yard to the Route 4 corridor is basically from the curvature of the property line that has frontage along Route 4. And then that would be to the west, and then to the south of the site where we're fronting Grand Avenue, which is the municipal section of Grand Avenue, that is also a front yard. And then directly to the east, Johnson Avenue is the 3rd front yard, which is also a municipal roadway.
Okay, so where is the front yard setback in your variance table? Is to what you said, there's 3 front yards, one, I guess, going to the on-off ramp and one going to Grand Avenue, the municipal roadway. So which, is that for both? I mean, the angled piece there, what setback is that? Is that which front yard setback?
That is the front yard setback to the highway, to Route 4.
to Route 4. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, and then, so there is none then to Grand Avenue.
No, well, it's farther back from Grand Avenue, so I just wanted to put the most restrictive at the 10.78.
Right, but is there, since there's three front yard setbacks, is there one does the setback to what we're calling Grand Avenue Municipal Road, is that meet the front yard setback requirement, or is that another variance?
If you're considering, well, yes, that would be another variance. But it's less, I guess it's a greater distance than the 10.78 that I've identified as the closest. But yes, if you were technically listing it, you would have 2 front yard setbacks.
2 front yard setbacks, right? So it doesn't matter that one's less, you only list one, right? So if you're putting a building on a site, right, and you have 2 side yards and they both don't meet the requirement, you don't just list one side yard as not meeting the requirement. If they both don't, you say you have 2 side yards. So you agree there's 2 front yard setbacks here?
There would be one to the highway corridor and then one to the municipal corridor.
Okay, and the
Do
one
we know?
and the
Yeah, I
one
was
to
gonna
the
say,
municipal corridor is what's the distance?
yeah.
It would be, it's, give me 1 second, I get it for you. It's 14.8 feet. So that would be from the corner. I'm gonna highlight that for you so you can see that. Okay, so this distance to the front yard is 14.8 feet.
Okay. Okay, and then you also have a rear yard setback?
I do.
Okay, and that rear yard setback is to the adjacent property line there of my client, 335 Johnson Avenue.
Yes, that's correct. You represent lot 4
Right.
to the rear, and our rear yard setback is the 17.86.
Okay. So with regard to, and you may want to defer this to the applicant's planner, but you had testified that you looked at the zoning code, I guess, in preparing your zoning table. There is a section in the code. I'm not going to deal with the prohibition of billboards in all zones. It's a constitutional question that council have written letters on, but there's a separate section, separate enumerated section that says it's a prohibition of billboards in required yard setbacks. Did you see that particular code section of the code when you reviewed the zoning code?
Yes, I mean, we did notice that we're here for a use variance.
Well, but for the use variance is from what perspective?
I think that's more of a planning question.
I would
do
agree, and I would ask council to reserve that question and present it to Mr. McDonough. He will be prepared to answer that.
Okay, and I'll defer that, but I just would like a follow-up on this point. I'm talking about section 416-45B, that locations prohibited are projections into required yard setbacks. And Bill, I'm asking whether you're preparing the zoning table, if you're considering that section to be no different than requiring a front yard setback, or would that require another use variance?
I
But I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm going to object to the question if you're going to stick with the thesis that it requires, quote, another use variance.
I'm just asking if that's being considered, that prohibition of the billboard in a setback is being considered by the applicant as a setback variance, a bulk variance.
Okay, that's dimensional variance as opposed to use variance. Okay, you can answer that if you would like, or defer to the planner if you'd like.
Yeah, I think the majority would be deferred to the planner for that type of testimony, but we did prepare the site plans based on the bulk standards for the C2 zone.
Which was from the schedule. the
That's
typical-
correct.
Mr. Sarlo, can you tell me what the ordinance section is that you're referring to? I want to pull it up on E-code.
416-45B.
Locations prohibited. Okay, all right, thanks. I'll have a look at this. I'm sure we'll be coming back to it.
Okay, so Bill, is this, this is one sign that's being proposed?
Yes, it's one sign, double-sided in a V-shaped configuration.
So is there any definition in the zoning code as it relates to signage and one side or double-sided?
I'm sure there are definitions that relate to the sign. And I believe it was stated in Mr. Costa's letter that we are proposing 4 signs. We have the 2 existing building mounted signs, and then since this sign is double-sided, there is 2 sign faces. So we have a total of 4 signs for the property.
Well, two sign faces is different than 2 signs. So what's your testimony?
Well, I'm just repeating what was stated in Mr.
Bill,
Costa.
I'm asking you what your opinion is.
My opinion is
I
that
read
it's-
Mr. Costa's letter.
Sure, my opinion is that it's one sign, just double-sided.
Okay, so how is, I didn't see a detail of the sign on your drawing in terms of the connection points. I saw an aerial, but you don't have a detail of how your one sign is mounted to the pole. But there's a little bit of a detail on your site plan from the aerial. So I guess hypothetically, I could ask you a hypothetical question, right? If you have 2 pieces of paper and you staple it all the way around the perimeter, you could write on both sides and wave it in the air without it flopping around. That's double-sided. Would you agree with that hypothetical?
That you have a sign face on both sides of the paper?
Right, it's stapled,
Yes.
2 pieces of paper stapled all, stapled all around the perimeter.
Yes.
Okay, and if you take those two sheets of paper, second scenario, you take those 2 sheets of paper and you only staple it along one edge and it opens up like a V. Do you have 1 sheet of paper or 2 sheets of paper?
So to answer your question, there are other configurations. When I have a straight back-to-back sign where it's not a V-shaped, there are occasions where you will see billboards that when they have the 2 sign faces, they are parallel to each other. They are separated by the sign structure, by the steel structure, but they are 2 separate panels that are adhered to both sides of that steel structure. In this configuration, to get the sign oriented more with the highway corridor, they separate or create a V to angle the sign face directly to the motorist who the message is intended for. So I don't think it matters regardless if it's a straight back to back or a V shaped. You have the same configuration structurally.
Okay. You talked about, when you talked about the height, the proposed height of the billboard sign, you talked about actually how the applicant or the individuals in this business of billboards actually try and determine the height. And I think what I heard is they go out there with a rod, take height measurements and then superimpose it on, from the highway corridor to see what, I think you used the word, what's the optimum height for visibility purposes? Is that an accurate summation?
Yes.
Okay. So all of that analysis is focused on the benefits to the billboard so that the maximum number of drivers can see the billboard. Is there any analysis done as it relates to height on the surrounding properties?
Yes. So on the subject property itself, it has a what I would call a 3-story building. It has a covered parking area on the ground floor and then 2 vertical stories above that. So based on the size of the sign, it needs to cantilever over the roof of the existing building so that it has proper clearance above the top of the building. So that is the consideration that we took for the sign height on this property. In addition to its vantage points along the Route 4 corridor, which was outlined in the traffic engineer's report. And I'm sure there'll be further testimony from Mr. Simoff at the next hearing.
So the considerations were the viewpoint from Route 4 and how it would fit on the subject property so it clears the existing building, right? Is that accurate?
That's correct. And its orientation with the V-shaped for directing the message to the Route 4 corridor.
Okay. So, and that analysis did not take into consideration the impact to Councilor Picar's property, my client's property, or the Total Wine property, Mr. Carr's property?
I think you're going to hear testimony from our planner on that material, and I believe our planner would be better suited to answer those questions because
I was just asking. I'm sorry, Bill, not to cut you off. I was just asking from because you talked about how the height was determined and what considerations were taken for optimal height. I'm just saying, were there any other considerations besides how to clear the building on the existing site and viewpoint from Route 4?
I think I also testified that the height of it does not block any other buildings or signage along the Route 4 corridor as well. So that was another consideration that we did from an engineering standpoint for the location and the height of the sign.
Okay, and so what do you mean by, or how do you define the Route 4 corridor? Is it just the buildings that front Route 4?
It would be the DOT right of way and any of the commercial properties that front along Route 4.
That have a common boundary with their state highway right of way, or?
Yes, because I would say yes, because those are the properties that are within either the subject zoning or other commercial or industrial zones along the corridor.
So if a building is if a property doesn't abut the Route 4 right away, but happens to be across Grand Avenue, that wasn't a consideration, or if there's a building that is adjacent to your property, but it's bounded on Johnson Avenue, that wasn't a consideration. If there was a property about 200 feet to the, I guess, north, that not a consideration as it relates to the optimum height.
Well, I think you're gonna hear testimony from the planner because they go back into the neighboring properties, both the commercial and properties that are beyond the commercial limitations, if there's residential or any type of mixed use. The planner goes through and will provide testimony to the board and can better answer these questions for the surrounding neighborhoods.
Okay, and the only reason, again, you were talking about the optimum height, and then I think the last question posed by council was your opinion as a civil engineer, was there any detriment, substantial detriment to, I think he said the adjacent properties? And you had said in your opinion, from a civil engineering point, there were not. So that's just why I'm asking about the surrounding properties, because your testimony touched on those issues.
Okay, understood.
So you showed your colorized aerial, I think it was exhibit A-6, to show the distance from the subject property to the other properties that are, I guess, the other property owners or properties that are opposing this application. Do you know what's on each of those properties?
Sure, I can share that screen again. Okay, I'm back to A6. Sure. Charles, which one would you like me to start with?
You can go, you go top to bottom.
Okay, sure. So at the top, that's the light blue area. That's a commercial center. The front building is commercial use. The tenant is Total Wine. Then there is a second or retail commercial building on the property that's houses several different tenants. The yellow property, which is directly behind or to the north of our application, is a vacant lot. I think there was testimony or explanation that there's a proposed multi-story commercial building for that property in yellow located at 335 Johnson. And then the last property to the south in the magenta color is an existing 3-story commercial building as well.
Okay. Thank you for that, Bill. So
Sure.
with regard to the Johnson Avenue property, you had talked about, I guess for all the properties, you talked about the distance from the, I guess your client's property or the billboard to all three of the properties. With regard to Johnson Avenue, it was basically a common lot line, and you put that at 0 feet, lot property to property or lot to lot. Do you know the distance between the proposed billboard and what you just referred as the proposed 2-story building? It's really 2 stories over parking, so it's really 3 stories. But so where the proposed building will be on 335 Johnson, do you know that distance?
I don't have the site plans for the adjacent lot 4 at 335 Johnson. I don't have that information, but what I can tell you, Charles, is from the rearmost portion of the vertical sign face to our shared rear property line with lot 4, it's 17.86 feet, where the existing building itself is closer at 3.27 feet. And I think I also have that in my table as well for the rear yard setback. Just look here. Rear yard setback. It's actually 3.1 feet is the existing nonconformity for the 3-story building.
Right. What I was just trying to see if you had information on was the distance from the proposed billboard to the proposed building at 335 Johnson Avenue, and if that setback would be within the rear, and I know rear yard setback goes from, would go from the billboard to the property line, but from an order of magnitude, I'm just wondering if what the distance is from the billboard to the proposed building, and if that would at least meet the rear yard setback or be less than the rear yard setback.
I believe it would. I believe it would because the minimum rear yard setback is 20 feet. We're at 17.86, so I only have like 2 foot 2 inches or 2 foot 3 inches to go. And I think if we're sharing a common side yard setback for that lot 4, the minimum side yard is 35 feet. And the minimum rear yard is 20 feet. So yes, I think to answer your question is yes, if you look at it in that frame, we would meet the rear yard setback to the proposed building on lot 4 being more than 20 feet.
Okay, so if you have this, so the rear yard setback and the side yard setback requirements are somewhat dramatically different, 20 feet and 35 feet, almost double. What are you considering since you have 3 front yards, what's that area? I don't even know how to describe it.
It's okay.
Right there, that setback there, or, where your cursor is up there, like what, to that property line, are you going to consider that as a side yard setback or a rear yard setback?
Okay, so this is so what I'm pointing at, that shared north property line with lot 4, that we're considering a rear yard to our property. When you look at lot 4, in my opinion, that would be a side yard of lot 4. So I would imagine that the application for lot 4 for that commercial building would have to follow a side yard setback on the shared property line. And the property line that I'm going to highlight on the left-hand side, that we're considering a side yard setback. So I think that would be a rear yard setback for lot 4 because it's opposite the front yard on Johnson Avenue. But again, I don't have the plans for lot 4. I can certainly, if those were provided to me, I can certainly add that to the site plan.
Okay, but so you just said where you have circled is
Sorry.
opposite the front yard from Johnson Avenue, but you also have a front yard on Grand Avenue. So is there a definition in the zoning code how to determine front yard or rear yard and side yard when you have more than one front yard? Like, it just seems arbitrary that you're choosing from one front yard from Johnson Avenue. You're saying that would be a side yard, but in another front yard from Grand Avenue, you're choosing that to be a rear yard. What's the basis for that decision? Again, is there
Sure.
something that you could point to in the zoning code?
Well, yes, it would be the definitions of what each yard is, but I can go through each one. So along Grand Avenue to the south, that would be a front yard setback. So that's 30 feet.
But you don't need to go through them all in the interest of time. I'm just saying, how you're making the determination that should be considered a rear yard setback versus a side yard setback.
Well, it's opposite the front yard, is the rear yard per the definition.
But Johnson Avenue is also, you said Johnson Avenue is a front yard.
Johnson Avenue is a front yard, but then its opposite side on the corner is also a front yard to Route 4. And then we have a side yard to lot 6, which is between our property and the Route 4 corridor. So the property line to the west, adjacent to lot 6, would be considered, in my opinion, based on the definitions, a side yard.
Okay. Okay, and then one last question, I think for
Sure.
now, is, I think at the end, you made a comment, and I'm not sure if I understood it correctly or I heard you correctly. You said something about there's nothing in the ordinance for billboard requirements. I'm not sure what you meant by that. You were answering a question from council.
Okay, I think I was addressing the setbacks as it pertains to the C2 zone. So we presented the variances for the billboard as a structure or a principal structure, and applied them to the C2 bulk requirements. My statement was more of in certain codes in other municipalities, there will be sections that pertain to billboards, and they would give certain setback requirements. That's all I meant by the comment, was that there was no applicable standards, even though whether it be for another zone within the borough, that I could apply this to as a comparison. That's all.
Oh, for as a comparison, but
Correct.
you're not saying that. All right, okay, but you believe your zoning table is accurate using, because the billboard's a structure, using the setback requirements from the C2 zone.
I do.
Okay. Okay, Chairman, Council, I have no further questions at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sarlo.
Thank you.
Mr.
Given that we've been at
Sinisi,
this for a bit,
Excuse me.
I'd like to request the indulgence that we take a short break for 5 minutes. And I'll look for a motion from the board to have a recess until 9:30.
So moved.
Thank you,
So
Mr. Gibbons.
moved.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Godier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any
Aye.
abstain? Okay, it's time now is 9:24. We'll be back at 9:30. Thank you, everyone.
Mark?
Hello.
Hi there.
My kids went out for ice cream without me, but they brought me something back.
What, did you hear the jingle? You just heard the jingle and you asked for the 5 minutes?
I had to go to the bathroom, so I asked for 5 minutes. The kids went to get ice cream like an hour ago. I was wondering where it was. They put it in the fridge for me, freezer for me.
Hopefully that gets you good flavor.
Moose Tracks. It's really good.
Nice.
For the sake of economy of time, when we resume, I'm going to ask for permission to reserve my redirect until all the objectives are done, so it's concise and we address everything at one shot.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Mark, unless you,
No,
Yeah.
I agree. I think let's let Mr. Picard go next and then,
Yeah.
Mr. Corriston. Where is Mr. Corriston? There he is.
hey
We still
folks, you
have
can
to
bring
open it
yourselves
up to
back
the
up again
public.
on camera. We're gonna get started. It's 9:30.
We still have to open it up to the public, don't we?
Do that after we're done with all the professionals.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, is it your practice to do another roll call, after a break?
Yeah.
All right, everybody unmute yourself and get ready to tell me that you're here.
I think we're missing a couple. George, Bruce.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, just turn your cameras on.
All right, I'm gonna call the roll. The time is 9:31. Chairman Caslin,
Here.
Eileen Bolin,
Here.
Joseph Gatier,
Here.
Bruce Pfeffer,
Here.
Michael Craig,
Here.
Dario Chinigo. Did I pronounce that wrong again?
Kanigo, yeah, he's
Kinigo.
absent this evening.
And he's still not here.
Correct.
Councilman Glass is out. Ryan Gibbons
Here.
and George Salva.
He's here but muted. George, unmute yourself.
Here.
Okay. All right, we're ready to proceed.
Okay, folks, thank you for the indulgence. We're going to turn now to Mr. Carr for his questioning of the engineer.
I'm going to be very brief because I'm going to limit my questions to your expertise as a civil engineer, Bill. The other questions I'll reserve until we have the planner. Can you tell us what is the shape and the dimension of the supporting pole?
Sure. It's a, let me just switch back to, the site plan for you. Sure. So it's a 4-foot diameter, it's a steel pole.
Same diameter at the base as at the top?
The base, they auger a hole that's usually a foot wider than the diameter of the monopole. So they can sink the pole into the ground and then they fill it up with concrete. So it'll be slightly larger. It'd probably be anywhere from a 5 to a 6 foot diameter
Okay.
base.
That's the only question I have of you. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Mr. Chairman, now that we're on the record, I neglected to mention what I was asking off the record or stating. I'm reserving my ability to redirect this witness until all of the objectors, members of the public, or professionals on the board to save time.
That's acceptable, Mr. Sinisi. Mr. Carston, do you have any questions for the applicant's engineer?
Yes, just a few. Thank you. I'll be brief. Mr. Voigt, couple of questions for you. You indicated in response to questions from Mr. Sinisi that the sign was not out of place and similar to other signs in the area, correct?
Correct.
Do you know, is that meet a legal standard, those type of statements? Is that a legal criteria for granting a variance on both issues?
Object to the question. That's improper to ask that question of this witness.
You extrapolated it from them. So those are not the legal standards, correct? Whether it's out of place or similar to other signs?
I think the question, on my, that was asked of me on my testimony was how it fit in with the surrounding neighborhood. I wasn't using other signs, as variance relief. I was simply stating what the commercial corridor of Route 4 is and the surrounding, properties that front Route 4.
All right, let's talk about the immediate surrounding area. You referenced Mr. Costa's report and that you agreed with his findings in terms of the necessary variances.
I did.
And I'm correct that the minimum front yard setback, the proposed 10.7 feet is almost 3 times less than what's required, correct?
Yes, based on the C2 bulk requirements, that's correct.
And the minimum side yard setback of 15 feet, the proposed is 10, that's 50% less, correct? Correct?
Was that to the side yard?
Yes.
The side yard setback, the side yard, yes, it's 15 foot is required and we're at 10.
So it's about 30% less than required, correct?
Sure, I agree.
And the combined set yard is again, it's in excess of 3 times less than what's required, correct?
Are you saying the combined side yard setback?
Yes.
We don't have a second side, so I can only rely on that one side yard of 10 feet. So yes, in that capacity, yes, I agree.
All right, and the height. The height required is 35 feet and this proposed height is 60 feet, correct?
That's correct.
And that's a significant difference, correct?
We require a variance for the height.
And it's almost twice, correct?
Yes,
And it's higher than the buildings that are adjacent to it, correct?
that's correct. The sign will cantilever over top of the existing building on the site and clear the roof by approximately 9 feet.
And have you done any studies to see what impact the height of the billboard will have on light and other type of impacts on the surrounding properties?
I think I provided testimony on the exterior lighting for each sign face.
Let me clarify my testimony. I'm talking about what it does to the light that the other properties receive, the impact on those. Tall buildings create shadows, right?
Tall buildings create shadows.
Have you ever been in New York City?
Well, I'm just going to answer your first question. You're saying buildings create shadows. I'm sure buildings do create shadows.
And the taller the structure, in this case, the more significant the shadow on the surrounding buildings, correct?
You would have to do what's called a shadow study to understand that, which we have not presented.
Okay. Let's talk about, I was a little confused by the V-shaped signs and whether it's one sign or 2 signs. What's your position? Is it 2 signs or 1 sign?
My position is that it's one sign structure, with two faces to it.
And am I correct that you could have two different faces on each of those, each portion of the V?
Yes, you could have the same static sign on both sides if that customer purchased ad, a same ad on both the east and westbound direction, or you could have two separate customers, one on each side, one facing eastbound traffic and one facing westbound traffic.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carson. Let's go to our engineer for follow-up questions. Mr. Costa?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Just a few based on the testimony. So I guess first thing quickly, the illumination, and I think you're gonna have to, just saying it's not gonna affect anything, I don't think is gonna work. I think you need to get the lighting expert and show what the spillage is, because it just doesn't go to zero at the borders of the actual sign. I don't remember exactly verbatim what you said, but you said it doesn't. And I find that highly improbable that it stops right at that border. So there has to be some spillage going either way. And then the ordinance is pretty specific that you can't have spillage over the property lines, and you're very close to the property lines. Also, I think there's a question of where are the actual property lines? Maybe you can put your site plan up again, Bill?
Sure.
All right, because you have an adjacent property, lot 6. And it has a dashed line that looks like it runs in the middle of Route 4. So obviously, that can't be correct.
Sorry, Bob, Rob, are you talking, the property line itself is this line here?
Right, that's your property.
That's my property line,
Right,
correct?
but you said, you testified that you're adjacent to lot 6.
Yes, lot
So where is their property?
Lot 6 is, let me just go to the cover sheet so I can show you.
I think it's lot 6, right?
Yeah, I agree. Lot 6. So I'm just on the cover sheet.
Okay.
So you can see
So-
that portion of lot
Right.
6.
So that property line doesn't match what you have there. What you have on your site plan.
I just don't show the opposite. I don't show the front property line of Route 6 of lot 6.
Lot 6.
Well, no, it's the right of way for Route 4, isn't it?
It is. It
Okay,
would
so go back to the key map, because I think this is pretty important. Okay, so based on that, the only frontage then you have possibly on Route 4 is where it says 30 feet. Correct?
that would be directly adjacent to Route 4 corridor, correct?
I'm saying, that's the only frontage you have on Route 4 possibly, or the marginal road. But the other, once you come around the point of tangency, it's gonna be Grand Avenue, according to this. I don't know if that's correct or not. I don't know if you have the jurisdictional maps for DOT to see where their right of ways are. I think looking back at your survey, or I'm sorry, I know you didn't prepare it, who you took the survey information from. They refer back to a DOT map. But I think you need to clearly show that, so you know exactly what you have. Because the statement you said, it's not gonna have any impacts on any of the properties, right? Here's my question.
Adverse impact.
How do you build it first? And then as time goes on, how do you operate it? How do you change the signage? How do you physically do it?
Sure, so the technicians, they climb up there's gonna be rungs on the monopole. So they would use an extension ladder to get to the rungs, and then they carry their
Where do they
equipment.
physically park though? How do
They park on the site.
but how do they, according to go to your third page. The distance, the clearance you have underneath the building, the only place you can get into that property is under the building, correct?
That's correct, but Rob, they just come in a regular standard vehicle, a car or pickup truck. They park and then they bring up the new vinyl. There'll be between 2 and 4 operators that
You're sure, you're 100%, maybe you're not the person to answer this correctly, but you're positive on that. You've seen this and you've seen this.
yes,
Okay, they pull up in a car and they get out with equipment, scale it and change the vinyl
that's correct.
in a car.
It will be a vehicle that can fit underneath that building.
All right, Mr. Sinisi, maybe you need somebody who's gonna be maintaining this or if that's accurate.
Well, I think, Rob, I think I'm answering the question that I know that's how they change the vinyl on the sign. I have signs that are not accessible by roadways where the operators have to walk the equipment into the property and then they scale the sign to change the static sign. So I know firsthand that this is how they do it. They're not coming to the site with a large vehicle. I've never seen them do that on any of my applications.
So, okay, constructability, how do you construct it?
So they'll come in from the Route 4 corridor onto the property.
How would they get on the property?
They would come in through the the island at the corner here and access into the property.
So they're gonna pull in from there and access into the property. Jump over the curbs and come into the property. The only reason I'm saying this, I brought this up when you had the Dunkin' Donuts and the wall and the constructability of the wall, which turned into a circus. So I don't, maybe you can't answer this tonight, but I think you need to absolutely figure it out because you made a comment saying it's not gonna affect anybody. And I gave you 2 scenarios where, quite frankly, you don't own the property next door, you don't show it, the property line correctly on the site plan, so that needs to get straightened out. And then I think you really need to focus on those 2 things, because that will affect, or the 3 things, will affect property surrounding you.
I can certainly update the survey with the DOT mapping, and we can get you a better outline on how the logistics of how the sign is being constructed, and an outline verifying the change of vinyl copy in the future. That's not an issue.
And again, maybe I'm beating this horse. You are not the person that's physically doing this, so I think that you need that individual that actually does the work. How do they do it? Where do they do it? How often do they do it? And I think that's important, Mr. Sinisi.
We'll work on it.
right.
Just keep in mind, Bill, we may be committing tonight to a January 23rd return, and tonight's the 9th. Can you assess from Mr. Costa's requests for further information that can be accomplished by that date?
So, sorry, Steve, what was that date?
The date would be July 23.
July 23. I can try to get as much information as possible by that date.
Okay.
All right.
We'll do what Bob will do our best.
Thank you, Mr. Sinisi. I think that's pretty much it based on the testimony. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Costa. Mr. Behrens, questions from you?
Sure, good evening. I'm just looking at the time. I see we have about 10 minutes, so may need more than that, but we'll get started. So good evening, everyone. Mr. Vo, Mr. Sinisi. Just going to start off by referring to my memo dated May 22nd, 2025. You touched on some of my commentary, but I wanted to get clarification on a few other points. So may be obvious, but just to clarify, the illumination would be from dusk to dawn. Is that accurate?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, so it wouldn't turn off at any point in the night.
We're not presenting any restrictions on the operation of the board at this point.
Other than your own municipal ordinances.
Can you clarify what you mean by that, Mr. Sinisi?
Well, for example, if you had all lights out by midnight and all commercial activities must abide by that, except for emergency lighting, like, for example, medical, urgent care, veterinary hospitals I put in, which has emergency components, and they're allowed to keep lighting on to guide people there. The answer is, if you have a hard stop for all commercial enterprises as an ordinance in your community, we would be bound by that, or we would have to ask for relief. So it may not be dusk to dawn.
Understood. I do think that ordinance provision is something we should check on. I don't have the answer. So thank you for that. This question for Mr. Vo. Going to the issue of the sign dimensions, the proposed faces, I believe, are 14 feet by 48 feet. And you mentioned that those are permitted by NJDOT. Does their permit pertain to maximum sign size? Meaning, would they allow smaller standard billboard sizes to be permitted along the roadway?
Sure. The DOT permit, I don't have the language in the DOT permit. I just have the renewal, but it states in the actual permit the maximum size the sign is permitted to be. And not having it in front of me, it is likely larger than the 14 by 48. It's probably the maximum size, the 16 by 60. But typically, the signed copies are a smaller size, the standard sizes, and one being 14 by 48.
Okay. But so to that point, though, would they, being that that's a maximum, would they allow for smaller standard billboard sizes, such as, and I've ticked off a few of them on page 3 of my memo. So for instance, there's 14 by 48, there's 10 by 40, there's 10.5 by 36, et cetera. And I believe there's even smaller sizes. So is it your understanding that DOT would allow for smaller billboard sizes?
Yes, you just can't go larger.
Okay. Do you know whether or not your client considered whether or not to propose smaller billboard sizes?
They considered the 14 by 48 as being a smaller sign than the maximum that was permitted by the DOT permit. So, and that is a standard size, the 14 by 48. I would say it's probably the most common size. But to answer your question, there are smaller size panels. We didn't consider any of those, or I didn't consider any of those for this particular application.
All right, thank you. Moving on to lighting. So you touched on the color temperature of 5,000 Kelvin. Are there billboard industry standards for static signs as far as lighting color temperature? Are they all 5,000 Kelvin?
Yes, typically they are.
Okay, so there's not a range, let's say 3,000 to 6,000 or something like that?
Is there a range? I mean, there is an industry standard. There's a trade industry. It's Out of Home Advertising of America, which really stipulates a lot of the industry standards throughout the country and the world. that these outdoor advertisers abide by as a guideline. But typically for the static signs, this is the LED lights that we install on them.
All right, thank you. Moving along, page 4 of my memo, touching on, I guess, landscaping and site conditions. What is currently located in the location of the billboard foundation?
It's just a landscaped island with low shrubbery and grass.
Okay. And are you aware that as recently as August 2023, there had been 3 trees in that location of the site?
I did look through some, I think when that comment came up, I did look through some street views back on previous years, and I did see some trees in that area. I did. So they
Okay,
were removed at some point.
Right, they were removed. And so I guess if a billboard were to be placed there, then there'd be no opportunity to replace the trees in that location of the site?
I think we can accommodate some screening of vegetation in that area, as long as it doesn't impede on the sign itself or any of the site triangles for that intersection.
What is the existing impervious coverage of the site?
Sure. I'm just gonna flip back to the site plan.
Okay.
Okay, so the maximum lot coverage, I'm just gonna,
Lot coverage, right?
yeah, the lot coverage. I'm just gonna highlight that for you. It's just to make it easier. Lot coverage, here we go. Okay, so the maximum lot coverage for the C2 zone is 80%. Currently, the site is in an existing nonconformity at 95.4%. And with the addition of that concrete base foundation that the monopole is set into, I'm increasing the square footage by approximately 28 square feet. So it raises that or exacerbates that existing nonconformity to 95.55%.
Okay. And what is the existing impervious coverage or lot coverage a function of, would you say? So the existing 95.4%, what are the aspects of the current site development that result in that figure?
Basically that any areas that are in green space.
Okay, so that would include the 3-story building and paved parking areas?
That's correct. There is a separate, just above the lot coverage is the building coverage at 40.61%.
Okay, thank you. Moving off memo now. So we touched on the issue of the site's frontage on potentially on the Route 4 ramp. How does DOT distinguish between the actual highway and ramps like this, we'll call it the marginal road?
Well, it's all within, if I just flip back to the tax map, the DOT corridor goes all the way up to that shared property line of lot 6 and our subject lot 4.
Right, but from a road classification standpoint, how does it differentiate a ramp from the actual highway?
Like an off and an on ramp?
Right, right. And well, like this ramp that's, adjacent to the subject property.
Sure. It's probably a better question for the traffic engineer, but typically it's measured from the GOR of the either the on ramp or the off ramp.
Excuse me, I'm trying to be helpful. I'm not trying to interrupt your flow here, but I understand that question, and I also, having done two of them in Paramus on Route 4, not too far from this area. We had a situation on Spring Valley Road with an off-ramp issue and Route 4 East. And I believe the answer that you're looking for can be found, and I can't give it to you tonight, but it can be found in the DOT regulations as to that definition and what it includes. And I'll make sure Mr. Simoff can articulate that and define that area for you.
All right, that would be great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's my understanding that Bergen County may be installing a new pedestrian path in the general vicinity of the existing one that goes over Route 4. Is that something your team is aware of?
I had a
Do you know where?
I know I don't. That's why I'm asking. I don't know where. In the general vicinity of the existing path, overpass is the only thing I know.
There is an existing overpass over Route 4. I did contact the Bergen County Planning Department. I believe I spoke to Mr. Timzak. And since we do not front on any county roadways, we are exempt from their review. So they didn't have, they basically don't have jurisdiction over the property.
But is there a technical distance requirement where a billboard must be set back so many feet from a pedestrian overpass?
If it is in their criteria, it would be listed in that NJAC code that the DOT goes through, and that's part of their vetting process for issuing the permit.
Okay. Next is just going to be a general comment. So you've submitted renderings of the billboard as viewed from Route 4. And what I think would be helpful, and based on a lot of the commentary we've heard, is to have renderings from other vantage points of areas, both within the borough, but also surrounding municipalities, given that we're near the borders of Hackensack and Paramus, to arrive at the determination of whether or not there would be any offsite impacts, and in particular to residential development in those locations. Bear with me. I know we're at 10:01, so
Just keep
Mr.
in
Chairman,
mind,
should I
just keep in mind that the buffet closes at the Sunrise Assisted Living, where I have to be in before 11.
I wouldn't want to deprive you of that. So, Mr. Chairman, I might have a few more. Would you prefer that I keep going, or?
Let's get your questions in tonight, Tom.
Bear with me. Okay. Almost there, and most of which were answered already. I guess my last question will just be confirmation about the height. If you were to reduce the height, or let me rephrase that. Is there any opportunity to reduce the height given the existence of the 3-story building on the property? Could you reduce it if you wanted to?
Just going back to the elevation, that's CO3. I have 9 feet of clearance from the bottommost portion of the sign to the roof. I would say the only way I could reduce the height would be to implement a smaller sign face. I would want to keep, I would have to, I would like to keep a safe distance from the top of the roof to the bottom of the structure.
Right. So is it fair to say that part of the reason that the height is what it is it a function of there already being an existing principal structure and use on the property?
Yes, that is one of the governing factors, correct.
Okay. And the billboard constitutes a second principal structure and use on the property.
From a planning perspective, I would agree with you.
Okay. That's it for this evening. So I thank you for entertaining my questions. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Chairman, I will be back to your administrator to confirm that July 23rd is in play, even if it is only a benchmark to segue into a later date in August. But I'd like to try to keep this moving along. And July 23rd was the date that was shared with us as a possible date. I also have to make sure that my traffic engineer is back and will be ready.
Right, so let me just jump in. I'm not available on the 23rd.
Nor am I. So,
Nor
Mr.
am
Walter,
I, nor am I.
we're going to run into some difficulty with scheduling, Mr. Sinisi, as you can appreciate. We're in the summer months, so let me
Indeed.
turn to these themes through altars, the keeper of the calendar. You're muted, Ed.
The next available date would be August 27th.
So,
That works for me.
all right, so let's go down the roster here. Mr. Costa, does that date work for you?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Barron's?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. I think I was supposed to be away that Wednesday. I can maybe accommodate a virtual appearance if necessary.
Okay, why don't you check that and confirm that with Ed, and we'll figure that out. Any members of the board have a conflict on that day?
I will be away actually on the August 27th.
Yes, Mr. Cody is
I'll
not
probably be
available.
away as well.
Mr. Sal is not available. Okay,
Believe I'm in town. I believe I should be fine.
all right. If you can you confirm to Mr. Alter in the next couple of days your schedule? Mr. Depkin, you as well. Sorry, I missed you. And that way we can coordinate
Yeah.
scheduling.
We would not have a quorum if they did not show up. Because remember, the mayor and councilmen are excused as well.
Right. We
Correct.
need a super majority, so.
So if you can't be August 27th, the next date is September 10th.
That works for me.
And
Certainly doesn't work for my
Yes.
client.
and this Charles Sarlo is September 10th. It will not be, I'm not available.
With all due respect to Objectives Council, their schedules, the applicant has to weigh in first. And I think we're telling you, or we're asking you, if possible, can we improve upon that September date? You entertain specials.
I mean, I'm obviously happy to accommodate a special meeting since I'm conflict counsel. It's very easy for me to do that. It may make sense, Mr. Chairman, to do it that way, especially if we're going to use the Zoom platform. It's just easier for me to do it that way.
Yeah, I think it's just gonna be a function of making sure that we've got all the necessary parties and even for the special meeting. And I think
Can I make a suggestion that I think will be helpful?
Sure.
Why don't we put this down for July 23rd? And then we can select on that night. So we keep our notices alive and well. We can then determine whether a special is in order. And know what that date would be.
Well, I
Because
think
September
Mr.
10th,
Levy,
it's just too far out, really. You'd be
Well, I don't-
recycling all of the testimony again because memories do fade.
well, the 23rd is a challenge right now because both myself and Mr. Lehman are not available that day. So I think you're looking at the 1st August.
I wouldn't be available that day either.
So I think you're looking at an August meeting anyway.
Okay, so the next meeting, for the purposes of carrying the notices, is August 27th. We'll extend the board's time to act so that no one thinks anybody is contemplating a default approval. I've never done one in my life. I won't ever. I have that problem with the act, but that's another story. I want to talk about then using October 27th either as the date, if possible, or a special meeting date in close proximity to that date.
Did you say October 27th?
I meant to say
said-
August
You said,
27th.
You said October, but I think you meant
apologize.
August. Yeah, okay.
Apologize.
All right, so why don't we schedule then for August, and then we can figure out scheduling from, at least we have a date to put it on the calendar.
All right, so are we gonna go forward August 27th?
I think there was,
27.
I certainly can, and Mr. O will be available for cross-examination by the public, quote unquote, and possible redirect from me.
I just don't know if we'll have a quorum.
Well, I get it. That's the time of year we have to deal with, and we'll deal with it. If that happens, it happens.
Is that meeting gonna be in person or on Zoom?
It's only gonna be on Zoom.
yeah,
Zoom.
we're gonna be on Zoom for the foreseeable future, so. Just trying to think if there's a good way to do this.
Mark, can I ask this question, please? Does the board use any of the programs that are available for scheduling when you have this many people with important schedules where you can poll and it determines the dates when everybody can do it?
I have not yet seen a board do that, Mr. Picard, and I've been doing this work for not as long as Mr. Sinisi, but not a short amount of time either. Usually it falls on the board secretary to call everybody or
Oh,
send out a gajillion emails and figure out their calendar, which is why I really like to schedule these meetings like right now as the meeting's coming to an end, because we have everybody in the room and everybody has their calendar. And I don't think there's any reason why we can't pick a date to have a Zoom meeting. And I'd really like to pick a date before we break tonight.
What about a special in September?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine for me. Tell me what works for you and I'll look at my calendar.
And
Well, we had 2 meetings available in September, September 10th and September 24th.
Would we be the exclusive applicant on the 10th?
You'd be the only applicant.
So that it would, in essence, be a special meeting, even though it's a regularly scheduled meeting, correct?
do we have anything on for the 10th at this point? Probably not.
No, nothing. He would be the only one.
All right, so
I
why don't
I
we block
believe
out-
Charles mentioned that he's not gonna be there. He's not capable of being there.
Yeah.
Well,
September
Charles, are you
10th
gonna be on
is-
vacation or are you gonna, like, do you have another meeting that night?
I have a afternoon commitment that will probably go into the evening.
All right. I mean,
And
we're
I'd
not-
also like to, I'd also like to add that we are planning on bringing our architect and possibly a planner to the next meeting or to
Well,
work
it's
with
gonna be
Charles.
very difficult to get everybody on the same page. Maybe you can send a substitute, Mr. Salo.
Yeah, and I don't think we're gonna finish this in another meeting either.
I
All right.
agree.
All right, I hate to tell anybody that, you know, their schedule is not important, but this is just very tricky to schedule this. What's the other September date that we had? September 20,
September 10th and September 24th.
does September 24th work for everybody that's on the call? That works for me.
Yes.
I would just caution, I know there's a religious holiday that week that we need to be careful about. I mean, it's
Let me
fine.
look at it. When is that? I know
September
it's
24th is fine for me, but I think that according to my calendar, it's the Rosh Hashanah holiday on September 23rd. But sometimes some people observe 2 days, so I'm just throwing that out there. But the 24th would work for me.
Yeah, Rosh Hashanah ends on Sunday, sundown on Wednesday, the 24th.
Right.
So I think we're good to go at 7:30.
Okay.
Either dates for me would be fine. 10th or 24th.
yeah. Same here.
Same here.
Same here.
All right.
24th's good.
Do we have it from our board, which is, I guess, the most important part of this equation?
I've not heard anybody say they
We're
can't.
asking
do it.
everyone else's, but do we have
Yep.
a quorum?
Yeah, 24th is fine.
I'm assuming we get all nations chiming in.
All right, it seems like September 24th at 7:30 PM on the Zoom platform. Mr. Alter, is it the same link that we're going to use, or is it a different link?
I'm sorry, is it a different one?
Is it a
Zoom link.
different Zoom link or the same Zoom link?
It's a different link. I'll have to send the link to
Yeah.
them.
All right, so I just
I'll
want to make,
I'll send out Zoom invites like I did for tonight's meeting.
all right, I just want to make an announcement to preserve the open public meetings notice then. So this meeting is going to be continued to 7:30 PM on September 24th on the Zoom platform. The link will be posted on the borough website at least 10 days in advance. There will be no further notice. There won't be anything in the newspaper. There won't be anything mailed to anybody's homes. There won't be any notices published on the bulletin board at Borough Hall. This is the only continued notice. So anyone from the public who wants to be heard needs to appear at that time, either in person or through council, to ask questions and make their statements known. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liebman. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Pfeffer, and Mr. Gibbons, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, any abstain? Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned 10:15 PM. Enjoy the evening.
Have a great summer,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
And
Thank
Ed
you.
and Chris, I'm not gonna be at the next meeting, just throwing out there again.
Thank you.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay, have a great night, everybody.
Bye.